What's going on, YouTube? This morning I'll be joined by H.A. Goodman. We have a lot of stuff in store, and we're starting in about 30 seconds, so hold tight.
Here we go.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is
not merely peace in our time, but peace in all time.
I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Did you think no one was watching?
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
your mission.
Suppose we go where no man has gone before.
To reclaim the American dream,
To be given the right of human beings to be afforded equal rights and equal opportunities.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you're hearing his voice, you're hearing the voice of reason.
You certainly come to the right place.
I do so love it when a plan comes together. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Benjamin Dixon Show, and I have beat the wire once again. I promise you that the 1 second before the theme music was over, I got the last email out that I needed to get out, actually to myself, sending myself my show notes, actually just a bunch of links. And that's what I'm trying to include in every show going forward. There are all the links that I read from each morning and each night. I just started collecting them on a spreadsheet, and then I just send them over to you guys so that you can read along with me. But welcome. It is Tuesday, September 22nd, the last day of fall, and Massachusetts is letting me know that this is the last day of fall because it is relatively cold outside. Now it will be cold. It's 50 degrees, right? So in March that will be warm, but right now that's kind of cold. But it's a beautiful day outside. A lot of things happening in the news. The Pope is in town. Well, he's in the country. He will be visiting with the president later on this week, and he will be visiting with the joint session of Congress. So we will address that. We may cover that. We may cover it live, depending. So a lot of things happening there. The president of China is headed to Seattle today to meet with top CEOs and several governors. They're going to talk business first, money first, before he goes to Washington to discuss politics. I'm not going to deal with that a whole lot. It is something I want you to keep in mind because it does weave into our narrative that we discuss here on a regular basis quite succinctly. But today I want to talk about a couple of things that are happening in the news. One with the drug pharmaceutical company that has hiked the cost of Daraprim. I believe I pronounced it right. If not, I'll pull it up. And they've increased it by 5,500%. And I want to play some clips of his explanation, and I want to dissect that. Before I do that, I want to discuss an article that I read in the New Yorker about Donald Trump. Is Donald Trump saving our democracy? I think it was a pretty good look at some of the same things that we have said on this show quite a lot. It's funny when I watch the news now. I just started watching the news. I normally just read and get my information that way, but I started watching the news yesterday, and all I heard were my opinions. And don't get me wrong, they're not listening to me to take my opinions, right? But it's just, it's reaffirming to know that people who are on CNN and actually, I don't know, that should be reaffirming or terrifying. Maybe I need to dig deeper because I don't want to have the same opinions, same analysis. But anyway, you get the point. I'm hearing my thoughts on air on a regular basis. So that lets me know that you're getting first class commentary and political analysis here. And we are saying things that they're not saying. There's some things in the article about Donald Trump that we did say, but then there's some other things that they did not say that we did say. And I think it's relevant. So we're going to unpack that word salad that I just threw at you. Kim Davis is back at it. The ACLU of Kentucky is filing a lawsuit against her. So I kind of glazed over Kim Davis last week because I got tired of her, but I'm going to circle back and play what she said last week because it's absolutely pertinent to what's going on with the ACLU lawsuit. And also, I'm going to, I have a guest coming on this morning after our first commercial break. I have H.A. Goodman, a journalist, a prolific writer. I actually really like some of his work. He's going to come on and discuss some of these polls. He's going to discuss Bernie Sanders. He's definitely a Bernie Sanders supporter, but he wants to dissect a couple of things that we discuss here on the show. But I want to give him a chance to unpack the most recent polls because apparently the polling is not as judicious as we would like. So he's going to discuss that a bit on the second break. And then at the very end, I am going to talk about this drug hike, basically one of the worst forms of extortion with a drug that is used to treat, that's included in the treatment for HIV/AIDS. So a lot going on. Let me start first with Donald Trump. And there's a clip from the White House press secretary who I normally don't pay any attention to because he's never says anything that I haven't already found out. That's the thing about news. News broadcasts are usually later than the live stream that we get, the live stream of information that we get online. But he had a couple of comments about the commenter or the question that came to Donald Trump. And but before I go there, let me talk about Donald Trump and this article in the New Yorker, whether or not Donald Trump is good for our democracy. Donald Trump, and I said this a couple of months ago. So there's the problem that I have with Donald Trump. I like Donald Trump. I just don't like the people that he's galvanizing, because he's galvanizing the absolute worst of the Republican Party, which is what the press secretary is going to discuss in this brief clip that I'll play for you. He's galvanizing the absolute worst in America in general, because it's not just, you don't find this level of bigotry only in Republican circles. You do find it in Democratic circles. However, it is prevalent in Republican circles, which is why Donald Trump is number one. Donald Trump is not number one because he has the establishment. Donald Trump is not number one because he has the evangelical base. Donald Trump is number one is because he's skimming from all of those groups and he has solidified the bigot base. Now, notwithstanding the fact that he's pulling out all of the crazies, all the racists, all the xenophobes, all the homophobes, all the very worst dredges of society, notwithstanding that fact, he's also doing something that this article in the New Yorker, and you'll see the description in the links that he pointed out. And you who are already here may need to refresh because that's the last thing I posted as the show was coming live. The article in the New Yorker is pointing out the fact that Donald Trump, because of the freedom of his money gives him, one, and because of his just natural bombastic attitude, Donald Trump is able to expose to America how imbecilic and childish and very simpleton our political process has been and our political candidates have been. Particularly in this season, Donald Trump has been able to expose the weakness of every single candidate, and not a single candidate has been able to stop him. Now, with that comes all of the baggage that is Donald Trump, the vulgarity, the racism, the misogyny, just glaring, all these negative facets. And so you have this person who is rather disgusting, drumming up a very disgusting base, number one contender in the Republican primaries, yet he is exposing all of the worst things about our political process. And for that, I think this entire summer of Trump going into the fall of Trump has been worthwhile, because we are getting a chance to see exactly who is beholden to who. And you have a candidate who has no problem calling out every single person that took money from him, every person that's taken money from the Koch brothers, every person who has been beholden because of that money, all of these people who are weak and spineless. The Jeb Bush has no backbone and no, just nothing there. The article really goes into the fact that Jeb's really sad campaign slogan is his name with the exclamation point. But when Donald Trump got done with them, it was a semicolon. So the article is a great read. You should read it. But I really want to dig into this concept that a person like Donald Trump is capable of actually being good for America, not in the Oval Office, but simply by running. And simply by running and exposing the very worst inside of the Republican Party in terms of the racist base, and then the very worst in the establishment party. And the other thing that he's exposing is that the Democratic Party is not really an outsider. The Democratic Party is the establishment. That's something that he's exposing to the benefit of America in general, because we like to think that Democrats are the populist. Democrats are the ones that are so in favor of the middle class, which, you know, in holistically they may be. But Donald Trump is exposing the fact that he is an outsider, and the Republican base has rallied behind an outsider, yet the polls are not demonstrating that of the Democratic progressive base. Let me separate that sentence, because that's two totally different groups. The polls are not demonstrating that the Democratic base is rallying behind an outsider. Instead, it is rallying behind one of the most establishment candidates that we have ever had, which is Hillary Clinton. So Donald Trump is exposing all of these things, and he's not intending to. It's like a person who makes something good happen, and their intention was not to do something good, right? Him being as imbecilic as he is accidentally exposing the fact that American politics is ridiculous. The machine is ridiculous. The amount of money that's involved, and the amount that each candidate has been purchased, and they're not able to speak exactly how they would want to speak freely. He's exposing that all of our candidates are essentially Manchurian candidates, because they have been programmed by the people they have to go to get support from. Now, all of that said, all of those things which are really good for the American democracy in general, you still have to look at the fact of who his number one supporters are. His number one supporters are the most xenophobic, racist, homophobic, ridiculous, asinine people that we have seen in public in a very long time. The only person who we see in public on a regular basis that represents Donald Trump's base is Ann Coulter. That's the type of person that Donald Trump invites and attracts to his campaign. And I just think that somewhere between the damage that he's doing by giving voice to all of these people who really need to be relegated to the dredges of our society, and between the good thing that he is doing by exposing how ridiculous our politicians are and how ridiculous our political process is, somewhere in between there, we're going to have to find a path that says we understand how ridiculous our politicians are, and we demand a better politician. But at the same time, we will not do it on the backs of these bigots, these homophobes, these xenophobes, these Islamophobes, and these racists that are making up the vast majority of Donald Trump's support base. So the question is, can we get something good out of this Donald Trump experience that he's taking all of America through, and leave the baggage, the negative baggage behind? Here's the problem with that. Donald Trump is doing good. Donald Trump is performing better than anyone imagined. And it doesn't look like he's going anywhere. And no matter how many people, yes, yesterday Scott Walker dropped out. He dropped out on the underneath the premise that he wanted to make room for another conservative alternative to Donald Trump. The problem is Scott Walker did not have any real supporters. He was at, like, after the CNN poll, the ORC poll yesterday, he was at less than 1%, which means no matter how much he feels he was sacrificing one for the team, he did not have enough supporters to help anyone. And I guarantee you're going to see this effect. The more people drop out in order to oppose Trump, the more the base is going to be rallied behind Trump, because the base absolutely loathes and hates the GOP establishment. So they will see this. They will see this, and they will think that, or they will be repulsed, because it is a move by the establishment to overthrow their candidate of choice. That will backfire ultimately. That's not going to play well with the base. So Scott Walker's biblical sacrifice, because yesterday in his press conference, he gave his, he wrapped everything in the Bible, right? That's what GOP politicians do. He wrapped everything in the Bible. And so his biblical sacrifice will be in vain because the people who support Trump do not want an establishment candidate. And that is the problem that the GOP has not come to terms with. They have not come to terms with the fact that they have created a base that hates the establishment and loves this type of vitriol that Donald Trump gives them on a regular basis. And I was going to play this clip by the press secretary, but instead I think I'll just put the links in the description because it's not that revealing. It's simply the White House calling out the same thing that everyone has been calling out. We cannot be surprised at the type of people that Donald Trump rallies or the type of people that he galvanizes, because this has been an unspoken, a dog whistle vein in the Republican Party for a very long time. Not since its inception, clearly, but definitely in the last 40 years, this has been the vein of the 50 years, the vein of the Republican Party that they have been playing to, but they have been trying to placate as well as get their votes. And they've been doing it on the backs of dog whistles. And now all of a sudden they have a candidate says, to hell with dog whistles. Just say whatever is on your mind. And so that's how you get people who shout white power at his rallies. And that's exactly how you get people who ask questions about President Obama's birth certificate. And do you realize there was 29%, and I'm going off of memory. So if I get these numbers wrong, charge it to my memory and not my, I'm not trying to deceive you, but there's about 29% of the Republican base that does not believe President Obama was born in America. Still does not believe, despite his birth certificate, does not believe that President Obama was born in America. Those people are supporting Trump. I guarantee you, those are the people behind Trump. And then a larger percentage, about 50%, I think 54%, believe that President Obama is not a Christian, or rather is a Muslim. Now, notwithstanding our entire conversation on yesterday, the fact that it should not matter at all what his faith is, you have half of Republicans believing that he is a Muslim. So now, do you understand why Donald Trump was never going to repudiate that person in the audience? When you have 29% who still don't believe he's an American citizen, and you have almost or around 50% who believe he is a Muslim, the person who stood up in the audience represents a large percentage of the Republican base. And so that's what the White House secretary was discussing. He simply said that this should not be a surprise to anyone because this is the Republican base. This is exactly who they are, and this is what they stand for. All right, folks, I'm going to take a quick break. When I come back, we're going to have a discussion with journalist H.A. Goodman about Bernie Sanders, some information on the polling that came out over the weekend, and we're going to discuss Kim Davis. And most importantly, I want to discuss this drug pharmaceutical company. I did a little research and spoke with some friends in the profession, some friends who works with infectious diseases, some pharmacists and some biologists. I had a discussion because I wanted to make sure that we looked at that conversation holistically and not just be reactionary to the title of the videos that have been spread around. But it is a Monday. It is a Tuesday, and I don't even know why it matters that it's a Tuesday. I think I was trying to play my music and got distracted. So let me stop. Let me stop and go to break. When we come back, we'll be ready with our guest. This is the Benjamin Dixon Show. We'll be back after this. It gets the best of us.
When you're ready to lose weight, why count, track, and worry over every meal? Jenny Craig makes it simple. Just walk into a neighborhood Jenny Craig center or give us a call. You'll meet your dedicated personal consultant who helps you reach your goals. Together, you'll pick out delicious Jenny Craig foods that you'll love and design a menu that fits your life. And the best part is that you can get started losing weight right away. Don't wait any longer to take advantage of our best offer ever. Call 1-800-JENNY20 or visit jennycraig.com.
This is the sound of salmonella gyrating on your undercooked chicken. And it looks like Mom might be taking it out a little early. Don't let salmonella get funky with your chicken. On average, 1 in 6 Americans will get a foodborne illness this year. So use a thermometer to cook each type of meat to the right temperature. Keep your family safe at foodsafety.gov. Brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
On the next episode of Recipes for Disaster.
I'm making beef sliders for my friend Sandy. Nana taught me to always pull meat off the grill early so it's extra juicy.
Use a food thermometer to ensure ground beef is 160 degrees, or you could make people really sick. Sandy didn't think twice about the slider she ate until yoga class, when a nasty case of food poisoning turned her downward-facing dog into upward-moving lunch. Watch Recipes for Disaster at foodsafety.gov and learn the steps Maria unwittingly leaves out. Brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans.
When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer. Warm fleece on a cold day.
I want to be a bike that races around the country.
I want to be a bench on a forest trail.
When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you're hearing his voice, you're hearing the voice of reason.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. All right, so I'm joined this morning by Hal Goodman, but his name online, you would know him best as H.A. Goodman. He's an author, a columnist, a journalist. He's been featured in the Huffington Post, Salon.com, The Hill, the Cleveland Plain Dealer, the Baltimore Sun. He's all over the place, and I'm glad to have him this morning. Hal, H.A., what do you want to be? Is it you want me to go by Hal or just H.A.? What do you prefer?
Anything you like is fine with me. I appreciate the invite. Thank you so much.
Glad to have you. I'm going to turn you down just a little bit over here. I think it might be on my end. I have you too loud. But yeah, thanks so much for joining us. Glad to have you. I've read your work. I think you're an amazing writer.
Thank you.
You have some very good insights. And you're also a really big Bernie Sanders supporter. And we like Bernie Sanders around here. My question to you, let's talk first about the polls that came out over the weekend. One of my listeners, or one of my subscribers on YouTube, sent me a link to the actual PDF, and I read through it, and it looks like those polls are a little funny. I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah, it was basically a public relations type of thing. Essentially, what takes place when you look at these polls is you have to take all this information in context. So there's a reason that people at first never imagined Bernie Sanders would surpass Hillary Clinton in Iowa and New Hampshire. So those same people who didn't get that right, who couldn't predict that, are now trying to find a way to keep Clinton on top. The big thing is, why did Democrats in Iowa and New Hampshire move towards Bernie Sanders as opposed to Hillary Clinton? The next big question is this, because the skeptics and naysayers say, well, the non-white Democrats around the country, Clinton has a lead with them, and Bernie Sanders has to go ahead and get that vote. Right. The question that nobody has answered, and whenever you see, it's generally a lot of white liberals that are saying that non-white voters aren't going to vote for Bernie Sanders, but they never explain why Hillary Clinton is better for African Americans or Latinos. They never say that. What they do is they condense 45 million African American voters, 54 million Latino voters into one poll, as if it's gospel.
Right, right. Go ahead.
So, yeah, I mean, so basically, the thing is, when you look at Hillary Clinton's record on race, it's an atrocious record. There's a 3 a.m. ad that I urge everyone. You can go on YouTube and watch it. It is I consider it a racist ad, but you don't even have to take my opinion. Orlando Patterson, who's a Harvard sociologist, nationally recognized figure, an African-American man, he said that it reminded him, the 3 a.m. ad that Hillary Clinton ran in 2008 against Barack Obama, it reminded him of Birth of a Nation. And it contained a racist it contained a racist sub message. And if you look at the ad, it's who do you want answering the phone at 3 a.m.? Do you want this black man, or do you want Hillary Clinton to basically save this white family? And they showed pictures of the kids, and there's imagery. Not just that. Big issue was during the 2008 campaign, South Carolina congressman, a very high-ranking member of the Democratic Party, James Clyburn, basically told Bill Clinton to, quote, chill out. And so it was basically calling out the Clinton campaign on their utilization of racism. So when you look at the 1994 crime bill, you can look at why did Hillary Clinton wait 3 weeks? She's the most powerful Democrat in the country. You wait 3 weeks to address Ferguson. You know, and Democrats for a long time, and this is why, oh, go on, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I want to jump in there. Okay, so you've given us a lot in the first few seconds. I mean, you came ready. you have all of your information there, and I clearly remember the 3 a.m. ad. And there are a lot of minorities, African Americans particularly, who have a long memory, as my friend April Rain says. We have not forgotten Hillary in 2008. But I want to talk more specifically about these recent polls. And I like what you put in context of they're taking a sample and lumping everyone into that sample when that it's not necessarily a good representation of the diversity that you find in each voting block, particularly when we drill down to the Democratic voting base of African Americans. That base is so diverse. So here we are, though, with Hillary Clinton at 42% and Bernie Sanders at 24%. And looking at that polling data, it looks like they only surveyed people over the age of 50. What does that tell you expressly about the situation, the state of the base, the Democratic base, the activists, the party players, with regard to the people who are coming from an outside perspective? More specifically, what do you think about the fact that the Republicans are having a revolution on their hands from outsiders, but in the Democratic circles, it looks like we are going with the status quo? At least that's what the polling is trying to tell us.
Well, basically, with the Republicans, Donald Trump is leading. He makes xenophobic, racist, nativist comments, and they love that. And that's what they want. I mean, that's the base of the Republican Party, or at least a part of the base that makes decisions. They like that type of person. So that's why Trump is number one. In terms of the Democrats, it's very interesting when you look at favorability and trustworthiness around the country. Now, this is not just my opinion. Hillary Clinton, more Americans distrust Clinton than trust Clinton. That was in Yahoo, CNN. Swing states don't trust Hillary Clinton. In terms of favorability, overall, Americans have an unfavorable view of Clinton. It's like 55%, according to CNN. One issue with the favorability also that people should remember, 25% of voters haven't heard enough of Bernie Sanders. When they hear Bernie Sanders speak, and this is white, black, Latino, especially younger voters, when you hear Bernie Sanders speak, you immediately move towards Bernie Sanders because you look at Hillary Clinton's Iraq war vote. Hillary Clinton was against gay marriage up until 2013. Hillary Clinton is against the decriminalization of marijuana. That's completely different from legalization. Bernie Sanders is for legalization and the decriminalization. Right. Clinton's even against the decriminalization of marijuana. Right. So she'll put you in jail just for smoking a joint. So
well, let's talk more about Bernie then, because you said something key there, and it's something that I harped on really heavily on yesterday, and I think it's important. A lot of fear mongering that comes from, and actually I want to pull up an image here for the audience to see of who America would vote for. And admittedly, I saw this first last night on The Last Word with Lawrence O'Donnell, and I went and found the actual data that he was using. And let me see if I can get a zoom in here. But essentially what it's saying is that at the bottom of who America would vote for is a socialist. 47%. I don't know if you can see that, but 47% is said that yes, they would vote for a socialist. 50% said no. Now this is behind, mind you, and I want you to see how America has changed and how ridiculous America is at the same time. You know, behind, you know, the regular religions, and I use regular in terms of the acceptable, the social acceptable religions in the United States, right? There is that paradigm. Gay or lesbian, and that's a magnificent shift in America. 74% said yes, they would. Below gay or lesbians, and I think this is funny. I don't want to go off too much on a tangent, but this is hilarious to me. Evangelical Christians rank lower than gays and lesbians, which is so apropos when you consider the conversation about Mike Huckabee and everyone else. And then you have a Muslim at 60%, an atheist at 58%, and at the bottom of it all, there are some good things in this data, but the most ridiculous thing in this data is a socialist. And Democrats, the establishment Democrats, as well as Republicans, know this. And so they're doing everything, to use the word pejorative, to make people fearful of Bernie Sanders. So while I have you for a few more minutes, just give us a breakdown of what you know of Bernie Sanders, quote unquote, socialism.
Well, number one, Bernie Sanders is not a socialist, at least not a socialist at all, and not a socialist in terms of the Fox News version of socialism. So he's for the free market, he's for capitalism, basically he's for the American way of life. The only difference is we've been kind of brainwashed as a society to believe that it's either a zero-sum game. Either we have to choose between perpetual war or education or a social safety net. And you see what the Republicans did with the Affordable Care Act. So and they called Obama socialist and far worse, you know. I mean, that was their whole political game plan. And so it's really funny when you hear the Clinton campaign or when you hear other Democrats using to be clear, Bernie Sanders says he adheres to a democratic socialist philosophy, which is different from the Fox News socialist philosophy. It basically talks about education, healthcare, making sure that, you know, you're not going to have an overarching foreign policy where you're continually engaging in counterinsurgency wars, where half to 2/3 of all the Americans killed and wounded in Iraq and Afghanistan were the victim of IED blasts. So this is something that is definitely, and really what it is he's a progressive.
Right.
And that's the type of thing that Democrats were so afraid of for so long. That's why when Clinton prides herself on being a moderate, she really means she's a Republican on the biggest issues.
Yes.
You know, Bernie Sanders is a progressive. That's, you know,
economic issues. I mean, that is, when you say that you are a moderate, that means that you don't want to shake up the status quo, particularly in regards to economics. And I think the number one problems that we have, that's why we see that 95% of all of the increase in wealth in the country has gone to the top 1% over the last 30 years, because we've been playing this right-wing supply side economic theory for the last 35 plus years. So when a Democrat says that they are a moderate, those are the issues that they are moderate on, because they realize they can barely get away with being moderate on social issues now. You have to clearly identify what you stand for, who you stand with on social issues. So that's the one thing that really troubles me about the establishment of the DNC in general. And something else that you said, and an article that I have posted in my links about Nancy Pelosi, she's actually coming out in favor of additional debates as well. How effective do you think Bernie Sanders would be at convincing the American people that this pejorative of socialism is actually reasonable progressivism, if he had more debates?
Well, what's going to happen is this. During the debates, two things will take place. One, you'll be able to see who's a real human being and who is, you know, a walking CEO. And so when Bernie Sanders speaks, you're going to see he cares. Because anytime you hear Bernie Sanders speak, you know he's honest. You know he cares. And when you hear Hillary Clinton speak, it's kind of like almost a PR agency basically gave her a script. I think somebody like Martin O'Malley is going to bring up the FBI scandal with the email scandal and the FBI owning the servers. I don't think Bernie's going to go there, but I think Martin O'Malley will. But Hillary Clinton will use the word socialism. I can guarantee it. And when she does, or when someone else does, all Bernie Sanders has to say is, look, according to Fox News, according to the Republican Party, every single person on this Democratic stage is a socialist.
Good question. Good point.
You know, every Democrat's a socialist.
Yeah, and as so long as we allow them to scare everyone with, I mean, and just look at this. I have to pull it up again because it's that ridiculous to allow people, to allow the right wing to continue to scare everyone with that pejorative of socialists, right? They turn something that anyone who does not believe in laissez-faire capitalism is a socialist, and because of 35 years of wonderful propaganda, you know, from a political science perspective, I think it was a brilliant masterpiece. Yeah. Right? It was for America, and so we see at the very bottom is a socialist. You know, to me, that means that we have convinced America to vote against their best interests, particularly with regard to not command economy, not seizing private property and turning it over to the state, but simply with getting the most out of our tax dollars for the middle class. That if that's socialism, then you have to ask yourself, do you really want the free market capitalism that Fox News is trying to sell us?
You said something perfect, and you said basically with this kind of mentality that you're voting against your own interest, it almost kind of brainwashes, and it's brainwashed a lot of people. And I see it on the extreme left as well. Because what the extreme left does is they'll look at Sanders and Clinton and they'll say, well, with Clinton, we're not going to get half of what we want, but at least we're not going to be disappointed because we know we're not going to get anything. With Sanders, they say, oh, he's too good to be true. And, you know, this guy, you know. But the thing is, that's the type of thing. There's so much disinformation there. That's one reason I love your show, is because you really are. I mean, it's so. Your show, there's other shows, very intelligent. You can talk about things. The dialogue is clear. There is no disinformation. There's no propaganda. You're learning something. Unfortunately, when you look at cable news, you're not learning anything. You're basically either getting entertained or your biases are being bolstered. That's pretty much it.
We try to go with the edutainment kind of thing. Well, not even the edutainment. You know, we try to make sure that we're factual and that we give as much useful information as possible. And I'm just kind of bombastic anyway, so I throw my hands around, and I guess people like me throwing my hands around and some of my word choice. Hal H.A. Goodman, he's from the Huff Post, the Hill, Salon, Cleveland Plain Dealer, the Baltimore Sun. I need to get with you and get some connections on writing because you seem to be really connected. Thanks so much for this morning, and tell everyone how they can get in touch with you.
Basically, my website is hagoodman.com, and I really appreciate the invite, Benjamin. Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Hal Goodman, H.A. Goodman, and we want to thank him for joining us this morning. Folks, we're going to take a quick break, and as soon as we get back from this break, we're going to jump right back into the conversation a little bit more about what's going on politically, and I definitely want to deal with Kim Davis and the lawsuit coming from the ACLU, as well as Mike Huckabee, who is essentially pimping Jesus, but that's no surprise for campaign contributions. And then we'll deal with this this pharmaceutical company that has raised the price of a life-saving drug from $13 to $750. We'll be back after this.
You're tuned in to The Benjamin Dixon Show. Join the conversation, 857-600-0518.
Looking for the right business opportunity? Need the right product, the right marketing plan, and the absolute best training in the world? Well, look no further. The Elite Team. Every leader in time excels. They believe the key ingredients in becoming successful in life and in business are just a keystroke away. Go to www.eliteteamsite.com. That's www.eliteteamsite.com. The Elite Team has a system in place that will move you closer to achieving your goals and dreams. Visit www.eliteteamsite.com or TonyFlemingEnterprises.com today.
College is important, but it can also be expensive. College Planning Services is a group of educators, administrators, counselors, and other licensed professionals that work together to provide the necessary services, networks, and information to reach students that are serious about getting a college education. College Planning Services partners with financial institutions, corporate sponsors, and other major players in the global market to strategize in building a pool of information regarding financial aid, scholarships, and funding information to assist students in preparing to access the essential resources to build upon their path to an educational future. Learn more at collegeplanningtoday.com and let us help you start your college career.
Do you want to take your business to the next level? Ultimate Business Solutions provides the support you need to increase your customer base and sell more products and services online. Specializing in graphic arts, web development, and internet marketing, Ultimate Business Solutions creates the face of your business. If you're looking for a custom logo, dynamic website, or popping marketing material, call Ultimate Business Solutions today at 404-704-2197 or visit www.ultimatebizsolutions.com. Ultimate Business Solutions. Let us create your future.
Do you have tax issues, owe back taxes, or need tax relief? Contact L&B Tax Service today. L&B offers you over 15 years of expertise and first-class tax service for individuals, professionals, and business owners. With nationwide service, you can easily find a location near you. Contact one of our tax professionals through our website, lbtaxservice.com. That's www.lbtaxservice.com. L&B Tax Service Incorporated. Tax professionals that you can trust. You've tuned in to The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Hey,
Welcome back. All right. All right, folks. So let me do this because I'm a fair progressive, even though you clearly know my bias is towards Bernie Sanders. But what's difficult is I have yet to find a Hillary Clinton supporter who would come on the air. I would give them plenty of opportunity to speak as freely as I just gave Mr. Goodman the chance to speak. So I'll put this out here for any Hillary Clinton person who wants to come, and of course, you don't have to be a writer for the Huffington Post, right? Hillary Clinton has a legion of top tier surrogates that go and tour the country on her behalf. I'm asking for a regular old fan who has their information, who knows their stuff and can come and defend Hillary Clinton on the air. I would like you to come on and do that. One, out of fairness, but two, because well, just out of fairness. That's enough. That's enough reason. Okay, let me go over to Kim Davis, Mike Huckabee, and the ACLU of Kentucky. I said this last week and I glossed over it because I was just kind of tired of talking about Kim Davis. But when Kim Davis came back to work, she began to discuss, she gave this long speech, and I cut it up to a very short segment, and I want you to watch it. She gave the speech about the validity of these licenses without her signature affixed to it. And then she gave her plan on how she was going to treat these licenses. And she alluded to whether or not these licenses were going to be valid, which I think I already said, right? And now the ACLU of Kentucky has gotten involved with a lawsuit because Kim Davis is not complying. It does not look as though she's complying with the court order that had her released, which means that she could go back to jail. So let me play what she said last week, and then I want to discuss it a little bit more and add on some Mike Huckabee just for good measure. This is Kim Davis as she got ready to go back to work on last week.
And so this morning, I am forced to fashion a remedy that reconciles my conscience with Judge Bunning's orders, effective immediately, and until an accommodation is provided by those with the authority to provide it, Any marriage license issued by my office will not be issued or authorized by me. I want the whole world to know, be no mistake about it, that if my deputy clerks who do not have my authorization or the authority, they don't have my authority to issue any license whatsoever. I love my deputy clerks, and I hate that they have been caught in the middle. If any of them feels that they must issue an unauthorized license to avoid being thrown in jail, I understand their tough choice, and I will take no action against them. However, any unauthorized license that they issue will not have my name, my title, or my authority on it. Instead, the license will state that they are issued pursuant to a federal court order. Judge Bunning indicated last week that he was willing to accept altered marriage license, even though he was not certain of their validity. I, too, have grave doubts whether the license issued under these conditions are even valid.
All right, so there you have it. I'm not sure how well that audio played for you guys, but you know, it's over with now. So I guess that's besides the point. Kim Davis clearly outlining for us exactly how she was going to undermine the marriage licenses that she never wanted to issue in the first place. She gave us her entire strategy there, and not many people batted an eye. They thought it was just general rhetoric, but there are the questions of whether or not these marriage licenses that have been altered to reflect the that it was issued pursuant to a federal court order without her name and without her quote unquote authority. There is the legitimate question of whether or not they are valid. And because of that, the ACLU has gotten involved and has filed a lawsuit, and they are taking this issue to court to bring light to the fact that she has been altering these marriage certificates beyond just her signature not being on it. She's altering these to show that they have been made pursuant to a federal court order. So she is actively getting involved with and interfering with the issuing of a valid marriage certificate, which is exactly what the judge said that she could not get involved with. So if this plays out, there is a possibility that she would go back to jail. Nobody cares about her going to jail. She needs to go to jail in general, or just take a step down. But the problem I have with it is her clear intention from the beginning, from the day or the week after she was released. She had all intentions of undermining these marriage certificates in any way that she could. And she capes it all, wraps it all with this Jesus jargon, which it is an attempt to make herself a Christian persecution victim in America, where Christianity runs everything. Right. And so there's this delusion in her mind and in the mind of her supporters that she has the authority, or she has the religious right, rather, to impose her religious beliefs on someone else, and to keep them from obtaining the secular rights that have already been deemed legitimate by the Supreme Court. This is where we are. This is where we still are, not only because of her, but because of people like Mike Huckabee, who are simply using this as a constant wedge tool, or not even a wedge tool, right? Because they can't, it's really a closed book in terms of national opinion, but they're using this to drain every bit of support that they possibly can from their evangelical base. Exactly like Ben Carson, who is playing to the evangelical base in their opposition to Islam and his comments on Meet the Press on Sunday. This is a continuation of the same type of rallying to the worst of the evangelical Christian base. Now, it gets worse. So that was Kim Davis on last week, I believe, and the ACLU just filed a lawsuit on yesterday. But President Obama has invited the Pope to the White House, and included in the guests that he's invited to attend with the White House are I didn't get the exact title, so I can't say whether or not they're gay activists or just that they're just gay Americans, gay and lesbian Americans, from, you know, human beings, you know, normal people, just Americans. And the right wing is using this as a means to raise money with their evangelical base. I want to show you this screenshot that I captured from Mike Huckabee's fundraising site. And you can see that I pointed out that this is all about donations. And so he gives this speech on Facebook, or this post on Facebook, and then he uses the same text in this fundraiser. And he said, this is Mike Huckabee speaking, President Obama's classless decision to transform Pope Francis's visit to the White House into a politicized cattle call for gay and pro-abortion activists is an insult to millions of Catholics and a new low of this anti-Christian administration. Why is it that Obama goes to extremes to accommodate Muslim terrorists, but shows nothing but disdain for Christians? Sign my letter to President Obama and leaders of Congress calling on them to put a quit to marginalizing and attacking people of faith. And at the top is his big call to action to donate. So Mike Huckabee, who is Kim Davis's #1 supporter, the guy who said he would gladly go to jail in her place, which I wish he would, if we could find a way to do it, you know, legitimately within the Constitution. All right. But Mike Huckabee is using this again, yet again, another example of a person who absolutely cares nothing about his religion, cares nothing about the legitimacy of people's faith, doesn't even consider the fact that these gay activists could very well be Catholic. Notwithstanding the fact that Mike Huckabee probably doesn't even think Catholics are really Christian in his evangelical sense. Right. So you have all of these glaring hypocrisies intersecting with one another, all wrapped in the fact that he's using it to raise money. Is there any Christian who is incapable of seeing how they are being manipulated on issues that we should have put to bed a long time ago? If so, then maybe you need to attend my church Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. because clearly the churches that you attend have been lying to you. You need to come to the Benjamin Dixon show. That's my church. But it's just, it's the height of absurdity. It is the glaring disregard for your common sense that is so surprising that people don't see it, that this is not about Kim Davis's religious freedom. This is not about Mike Huckabee's concern for President Obama slighting Christians and Christians being persecuted. It's not about persecution of faith in America. It's not about religion at all. It's about making money and gaining notoriety and running for office and gaining political capital. That's what it is. They are snake oil salesmen. They are charlatans of the first degree. They are first class. I won't say that word. I'm not going to say that. They are first class charlatans who are out to take everything they can from you because of your sympathetic feelings towards Christianity. What happens once you realize these people are out there manipulating you is that you don't necessarily lose your faith. You just realize that they're assholes. That's what I was trying not to say earlier, but it came out anyway. They are 100% assholes, and they're doing it in the name of Jesus. You cannot get any more disgusting than a person like Mike Huckabee, who is willing to ignore the Constitution and willing to ignore the Bible for his own personal economic gain, so that he can get another appointment on Fox News, so that he can sell more books, and so that he can raise a lot of money and become a significant political player in the Republican Party, or maintain his influence that he already has. That's what this entire debate about gay marriage is about, and has been about for a long time. It has always been about them manipulating people who are fearful over someone else's sexual preferences. I mean, seriously, your wife probably is waiting for you to come home and do what you need to do at home, and you're worried about what other people are doing in their beds. Come on, church folk, you gotta do better. I don't even know how much time. I have 7 minutes left. Let me go straight to this, because this is the guy I wanted to talk about the entire morning, but I put him at the end. And if you're looking at my screen title, I've titled this "The Hedge Fund Asshole."
Well, you know, we needed to.
And for some reason I cannot pronounce his name. I want you to watch his video, and I want you to listen to him. This is the guy who has raised the drug price for a drug called Daraprim from $13 to $750. an increase of 5,500%. And I want you to listen to his words. He came on television to try to do damage control, and this is what he said. His words, not mine.
To turn a profit on the drug. The companies before us were actually just giving it away almost. You know, the price that they were pricing it at was the price. $13.50. Yeah, $13.50, and you only need less than 100 pills. So, you know, at the end of the day, the price per course of treatment to save your life was only $1,000. And we know these days in modern pharmaceuticals, cancer drugs can cost $100,000 or more. Rare disease drugs can cost $500,000. Daraprim is still underpriced relative to its peers.
Okay, let me pause it there because I actually started playing the wrong clip, and hopefully Bloomberg won't hit me, but whatever, if they do. What am I looking for? The problem with the profit motive. I'm going to play it again because the first part clipped off. I want you to understand exactly what he's saying, and we'll go from there. Here we go again.
Well, you know, we needed to turn a profit on the drug. The companies before us were actually just giving it away almost. You know, the price that they were pricing it at was the price. $13.50. Yeah.
All right, let's stop it there and click cancel. And what we're going to do is have to play the bad one. We're going to have to play the bad copy because technical difficulties. He said it clear himself. Let me paraphrase for him because he's already said it. Number one, they needed to turn a profit. Okay, that's reasonable. Nothing terrible about that. But look at the context that he put it in. He said that previously people have been charging $13.50 for a drug that took 100 pills in the entire course. So people were getting a life-saving drug, a drug that could save their life, exactly how I put it, for about $1,000. To him, this seemed unreasonable that a drug that could save your life would only cost you about $1,000. Now, the part that got muddled in a bad edit, and I'll try to play the better one again. The part that got muddled was the fact that the reporter called him out and said that this drug only cost about $1 to manufacture. And so even at $13, they were making a ridiculous profit margin. But that wasn't enough. He had to take it up to $750 because he did not believe that a drug that could save your life should only cost you about $1,000. This is what he said. Let's play it again.
Well, you know, we needed to turn a profit on the drug. The companies before us were actually just giving it away almost. You know, the price that they were pricing it at was the price. $13.50. Yeah, $13.50, and you only need less than 100 pills. So, you know, at the end of the day, the price per course of treatment to save your life was only $1,000. And we know these days in modern pharmaceuticals, cancer drugs can cost $100,000 or more. Rare disease drugs can cost $500,000. Daraprim is still underpriced relative to its peers.
So because this drug can save your life, it's still underpriced because cancer drugs, which doctors have been protesting the exorbitant cost of cancer drugs, but because cancer drugs can cost you almost $500,000, this drug that has been around for 70 years, that is 80% effective, that has saved how many lives, especially those whose immune system has been compromised by HIV and AIDS, he feels that it's still underpriced because in an industry where drugs can save your life, the difference between life and death, well, we're just not charging enough. This is the problem. And let's just keep going. You know what? Let's keep going. Let's listen to the next thing he said because it gets worse.
But my understanding was that to actually produce this pill, what cost only $1?
It costs very little to make Daraprim.
Okay, so then how are they losing money if they were selling it at $13.50?
The cost of production is not the only cost, right? So you have distribution costs, you have obviously FDA costs, you have manufacturing costs that are just included by the cost of goods sold for the pill itself, the ingredients, but also the people that make the pill and make sure that it's made to specification. Those costs have increased dramatically over the years. So,
okay, so
and these patients deserve a drug company that is turning a profit, a fair profit, and also developing a drug that.
Hang on there a second. You're getting beside yourself. So that's the part I had to research on. And I started talking to some friends who are in the pharmaceutical industry, some friends who are biologists and researchers and in that field in general. And then I also spoke to a friend of mine who works for an infectious disease organization. And to their knowledge, the cost of manufacturing, and this is from 3 different people, so I'm triangulating 3 different sources of people who actually work in this field. The cost of manufacturing, everything that he stated, has not gone up in a significant way to justify a 5,500% increase in the cost of a drug that was costing $1,350 and now it's costing $750. So what costs have gone up? What costs have gone up so much for a drug that really should be generically made at this point? What costs are so exorbitant when it costs you $1 to make? What FDA, help me out with this. What FDA costs do you have to undertake for a drug that's 70 years old? It's not as though you have to go through to get it approved again. There may be some reapproval, but that cannot be worth 5,500% increase in the cost. But it gets worse. Let's let him play. Let's back him up a little bit and let him say his last little bit, and then I'll be done with him.
And these patients deserve a drug company that is turning a profit, a fair profit, and also developing a drug that is better for them. They don't deserve a drug that's 70 years old. They deserve a modern medicine that can cure toxoplasmosis quickly. There's a lot of issues with toxoplasmosis. I don't advocate for companies that raise price and don't do any research. And by the way, there are dozens of those. So the spotlight on me is an interesting thing. I'm not thinking too hard about it because I know what we're doing is right.
Oh, I feel so bad for you. I feel so sad for you because of the spotlight that is on you because you've raised this drug. Yes. You raised the drug by 5,500% and you're surprised at the reaction of not only the media, but of doctors, of HIV/AIDS advocates, of everyone who is involved to see this exorbitant increase, all wrapped, unashamedly wrapped in the fact that he wants to make a bigger profit. Because $5 million in revenue for a particular drug that that was pretty much just a standard drug that they identified as wrapped into a package of other drugs. It's almost like I don't have an analogy for it, but let's just a standard drug. Nothing revolutionary except for the fact that it saves lives. But because that $5 million of revenue a year was not enough, you have to hike the price from $13 to $750. Now, no one is saying that this company does not have a right to make a profit. Let's be clear. No one is saying that this pharmaceutical company, I lost the name just that quick, does not have the right to increase the price because they acquired the rights to it and they can increase the price. No one is saying that they did anything wrong on the surface, but the level, the extreme level that they went without any regard to the effects that this is going to have on people in the middle class. And I say it like that because if you watch the full clip that I have in the link in the descriptions below, he is saying that they will give this drug for free to people who can't afford it. But what about the people who can just barely afford it, who don't meet your cutoff point in terms of being able to receive charity from you? Why would somebody have to receive charity from your organization for a drug that they used to could afford out of pocket? And so now these costs are going to be absorbed by people in the middle class, people who the insurance companies, which means the rates for everyone is going to go up. You know, we have a very large economy, so it's not going to go up in a significant way because of this one action, but because of these types of actions across the board. The entire industry is notorious for hiking prices on drugs that are life-saving, which ultimately, as my friend Kevin says, becomes a form of extortion. When a person does not have a choice. See, a person who is healthy, it's called toxoplasmosis, we can fight off this infection. But a person whose system has been compromised by HIV or AIDS, they can die from this infection. And so this is a life or death situation for thousands upon thousands of people. And this guy with his smug grin and his Donald Trump, that's the reason I played it at the very end. He has a lot of Donald Trump in him where he said, oh, and by the way, there's other companies that are doing it. So I don't understand why people are looking at me. That's classic narcissist psychopath, right? That is classic Donald Trump. And so he's using this as a means of trying to do a PR spin. But the reality of it is the same. He has taken a life-saving drug that is 70 years old, that costs $13 to buy, $1 to make, and he has inflated the cost by 5,500%. And I see people trying to defend this guy. I see people trying to justify his actions. But I have yet to find anything that could justify this level of extortion of people who are desperate, who are in desperate need for this drug. This is the problem with capitalism. It's not the profit motive. It's that profit is never enough. And I'm not saying throw away capitalism. What I am saying is that if we don't realize that every decision that is good for a business is not good for the average American, then we will always get people like this ass who does not care about the effects that this is going to have on the people who cannot get the charity because they make too much to get that charity. That is that intersection right there is where people get screwed all the time. Yes, it's horrible to be poor in America, but there are a lot of resources at your disposal. The people who get screwed are the people who are making just enough money to not be able to get charity. And there are enough people who are making just enough money to not get charity, who are living with HIV and AIDS, who will be suffering because of this. And they will have to fork over all kinds of money because of this. And their cost, their premiums, as if they weren't high enough. This is going to have a very negative effect on a lot of people. And it speaks volumes. It speaks volumes on the fact that profit at any expense. Not only that, but that profit is never enough. I mean, with 500%, was that not enough? Was 1,000% increase? Was that not enough? No, apparently it wasn't. They needed a 5,500% increase on a drug that people are desperate to have because of their medical condition. All right, folks. I got to go to work. You guys have a great day.
And until that moment comes, when we, the Americans, are able to accept the fact that on that continent we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other, that I am not a ward of America. I am one of the people who built the country. Until this moment.
And we are brothers. It's not a question of Jews or Christians or Muslims. We're all in the same boat.
We need each other.
Love is a condition so powerful. It may be that which holds the stars in the firmament.
Until this moment.
Love.
Until this moment.
Love.
Until this moment.
I come to you today to say that we can build a newer and better nation. I say we can do so, that we must do so, and that we will do so.
You've tuned in to The Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at www.thebenjamindixonshow.com.